Hi, I'm David J. Cortez from Houston, Texas, here at WBOC's historic Studio D, and you're watching DelmarvaLife.
Singer-songwriter David Cortez, can't wait to hear more from him.
One of the things I love about this show is we get to listen to him before the show starts, so we get to listen to him twice. You need to be here and join us, just what we're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, for many of us, our yards are slowly coming back to life after the winter months. One of the things you're probably noticing, your grass is growing.
Oh yeah, and as that's happening, it's important to make sure that you give it the proper care that it needs for the months ahead. Brian Spiros visited with R&L Irrigation Services in Seaford to find out what your yard needs this time of year to get that beautiful lawn.
You've probably already noticed the grass in your yard is starting to get nice and green, and the goal is to keep it that way as we head through the hot summer months.
It's curb appeal. You know, people remember houses that are always looking good.
Richard Williams is president and founder of R&L Irrigation Services in Seaford, which started 15 years ago. Richard got his start in agriculture at a young age, so he knows what it takes to make the lay of any land look its best.
It's human nature to have a nice looking house, clean, yard kept, because we want our biggest investment to look the best it possibly can.
So how do you keep your lawn looking great? Richard says there are several ways. One of which would be installing an irrigation system.
An irrigation system is basically, I've always called it, an insurance policy. That you can get water down on the yard when you need it the most, so that way your lawn doesn't die. It's a no-brainer. You set it, you leave, you don't worry about it again unless the season changes. If it gets drier during the summer, you might have to put more water down. If it gets wetter, you can always turn the system back. But it's a completely hands-off approach.
According to Richard, R&L Irrigation Services uses what's called trenchless irrigation. They plow the piping right into the ground without damaging your yard. And he adds that a system like this will not only keep your lawn and landscape looking vibrant, it also saves you time and money.
And the other benefit is when you actually have a good-looking lawn, a healthy lawn, it's actually a natural air conditioner. They've proven that a good lawn can actually lower your energy bill costs because you're actually cooling the ground around your house, which in turn cools your house during the summertime.
But an irrigation system isn't the only ingredient to a good-looking yard.
This time of the year, even before you start an irrigation system, you need to be putting the proper fertilizers down to make your grass bloom, make it grow and get the green in it and start getting it thick so that it can survive the summer hot season that we're going to get. And of course, at the same time, you want to get rid of all the weeds that are in the lawn too, so the grass doesn't have that much competition.
Speaking of weeds, not only do they look bad, but they can cause problems real fast.
If you have a weed there that's in your lawn, like clover, for example, clover will spread slowly over the years. So if you have clover that's not taken care of, it can grow to be clumps 5-6 feet wide. But it starts out small, maybe only an inch or 2 inches in diameter. So you need to get rid of the clover. Same thing with dandelions. When they come up, if you don't treat them, they can actually kill the grass in that small little area. And that way, when you go through the summertime, you don't have any grass in an area that's the size of a baseball or softball. So get rid of the weeds early, and then you won't have any issue come summertime. Insect management is the same thing. We have a great infestation of grubs, ants, mites here on Delmarva, and the grubs eat the grass roots. And if the grubs go unchecked and they're not treated, they can actually destroy a lawn within a year's time.
If you have some areas in your yard that don't have grass, Richard advises you reseed to bring that area of your lawn back. There are even organic applications R&L Irrigation Services can put down that will help bring your lawn back to life. And once you have your lawn in perfect shape, there are some important maintenance tips you should know. First, Richard says you only need to water your lawn 3 to 4 times a week, not every day. And whether you have an irrigation system or are watering by hand, it's best to do that in the early morning hours before the sun comes up. Finally, when cutting the grass, don't cut it too short.
Healthy lawn likes to be cut very tall, 3.5 inches plus. So if you've got your lawn being professionally maintained by a lawnmower service, then they should know. Keep it nice and high, keep the blades as thick as they can, as tall as they can, and you'll be great. That's one of the biggest key ingredients is not only how you cut your lawn, also like how you water the lawn. Do you water every day, which in our area, no, you don't. You want to water 3 to 4 times a week at the most, and make sure you cut the grass nice and tall to give it as much shade as possible.
All of these are simple steps that will give you big results, because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with having a lawn that looks like a golf course.
Delmarva is its own little climatology, and there's certain steps you have to do. If you miss one step or the sequence or the timing of that step, it can be catastrophic down the road. So, get well educated on what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and then you're going to be rewarded with a rich, thick, luscious lawn.
And by the way, when it comes to installing irrigation system, R&L Irrigation Services says it takes a day or two. If you've got a larger property, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 days.
Well, now that you have the irrigation system in place, you have to get the rest of your lawn ready. Here are a few more steps for spring lawn care. Stephen Wiley recently bought this home, and he already has big plans for the yard this year.
There's just a lot that needs to be done from kind of a rearranging standpoint. There's some bare areas, there's some things that I would like to change. Bushes are too close to the house, bushes are too close to the walk. They're overgrown in some areas. So I really want to thin everything out and kind of redo it the way I want it. We do plan on living here for another 8 to 10 years or so, so I'd really like to be able to enjoy my project.
When it comes to your lawn, you don't have to go over the top with your landscaping, but experts say you do need to pay attention to the basics. Ask some of these questions. How does your yard look? Are your shrubs in good shape? How does your deck or patio look? What about the condition of your lawn? That's where Chris Arvin comes into play.
A lot of times the customers will call me on the phone and say my mower will start, but it just runs for a second and dies. Usually that tells me that it's sat with fuel in it probably all winter and it's gummed up the carburetor. So the carburetor has to be taken apart and cleaned out, and typically it'll start and continue to run after that. Fuel is probably the biggest issue. Is if a customer can run the mower out of gas at the end of the season and then wake it up with fresh gas, 9 times out of 10 it's going to wake up just fine.
Another thing to pay close attention to is the oil.
Typically they want to check the oil to make sure there's plenty of oil and that it's fresh. Typically the engine manufacturers want the oil changed every 25 hours, which is about 1 year's time. Most people mow about 25 times a year, and if it takes them about an hour to mow their grass, then they pretty much have used the oil over the oil's dirty at the end of the season. It should be changed.
And last but not least, look at the condition of the blade.
When it's on its side, you can look at the condition of the blade and see if it's dull. And most of the time, if you've mowed 25 times, it's dull. The mower manufacturers would like to have the homeowner sharpen their blade after every 8 mows, but that's pretty excessive. If they get it done once a season, they're doing better than most.
Other warning signs that you may need lawnmower maintenance: a smoking engine or reduced horsepower. If this happens to you, it's important to keep in mind that spring is the most popular time to service a lawnmower. When you make an appointment, be sure to ask what's included with the service and make certain you get an estimate. Avoid mowing your lawn with a dull blade. And lastly, keep your mower clean, wait for the engine to cool, and hose off any excess clippings and debris. Good advice. Still ahead on DelmarvaLife, we're in the kitchen making a shrimp dish with a Louisiana twist. It's just a taste of what to expect at the upcoming Wounded Warrior Shrimp Feast.
And we'll learn more about the events. A weekend of fun for our nation's heroes. DelmarvaLife will be right back.